Welcome to School of PE podcast. I'm your host, Chris Miller, and I'm so glad that you could join me this week. We are going to discuss topics about FE, PE, and SC, and we're also going to answer questions that will help students prepare for their exams. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the weekly SOPE School of PE's weekly podcast. I'm Chris Miller, and today we got Pablo Cruz with us. So let's give him a warm welcome. And Pablo, thank you for coming on today and joining me for this podcast. So before we get into the meat and potatoes, let's give a little bit of background about you.
Thank you, Chris. I'm really excited to be here today. Well, a little bit about me. I'm a civil engineer. I studied in Nicaragua. I studied in Spanish. Yeah, and yeah, now I'm working as a structural engineer in the U.S. I have many years of experience in different things. Like, for example, in Nicaragua, I was a professor. I work in construction. I have all the time this idea that becoming a structural engineer should be when I know something about the all different aspects of engineering. So it's really good to be a structural engineer from the beginning. But when you have a more context, more broad knowledge about how the engineering works, it's really awesome.
That sounds good. So where are you currently at now, Pablo? Where do you live now?
I'm living in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
All right, home of the Wolverines. Okay.
Coming from Nicaragua, where
I talk about direct opposites in temperature.
oh my, tell me about it.
I bet you those winters kill you, Pablo.
Oh my goodness, yeah, I'm still getting used to that. I don't think I'm gonna get used to that in this life.
I know how you feel. I'm from Southern California. I've been in Ohio since 2004, and the winters, they still get me, man. They are brutal.
Yeah.
But so today we're going to talk about something kind of cool, passing the FE exam. It's a big milestone for engineers that are just kind of getting started, not necessarily getting started in their career, but their journey towards becoming a PE. So some people that work in the engineering field that haven't gotten their FE yet, which is okay. A lot of people that I've met, they're far removed from their college days, and the FE is something that they're starting on a little bit later in life, but that's all right. So you passing the FE, becoming an engineer. Can you kind of describe the way you felt before you took your FE exam?
Well, I have to tell you, a little bit of my story, a
Sure.
little more in depth. So, uh, some context, right? So, I studied in Nicaragua in Spanish. I studied almost 22 years ago. Can you believe that? So, yeah, I come to the US, and then I decided to pursue, to practice my profession in the US. So that's quite a challenge. And I have to get ready for that. So the first time I studied on my own, I got these few books, to practice a
Mhm.
lot, put a few months working really hard on that, and work over 900 exercises, 6 months, studying all these, felt really ready for tackle it. And then I went to the exam, to the room, and get overwhelmed.
Mm.
That's horrible. So yeah, it was terrible. It was a fail, and I felt really terrible. So I started studying one more time. The one good thing is that you get this feedback, from
Mhm.
NCES. So I got this feedback, and then I knew what were the things that I wasn't
Mhm.
really quite yet there.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's a good tool. It's only having access to that is a
Mhm.
real game changer, because you know what you need to work, what areas you need to
Mhm.
work. So that was really good. So I get prepared, I ask more people, and then I went one more time. I almost passed it the second time, and then I figured, at some point, and listening to some advice of friends, that I needed, a review course,
Mhm.
and that's how I I found out about School of PE, and that was a game changer for me. Becoming with my background, as I
Hmm.
told you, because I knew I learned English when I was in my 20s.
Oh, wow.
so they, the professors, the teacher, the English teachers, they know how to teach you English, but
Hmm.
they are not engineers. So getting to know all the engineering jargon, that takes time. you know then, as I told been 20 years since I was school, studying solving integrals and that stuff. To study all that, you know, I thought I never gonna use that. But okay. And so yeah, it's a challenge. It was a challenge for me, and but here I am. I did it.
No, congratulations, and that's a remarkable story, and appreciate you sharing that with us. And people, sitting here listening to your story, and they're like, "Wait, you know what? That's similar to me, right?" I mean, I talk to students every day, and a lot of them, like I said earlier, they're 15, 20 years removed from college, and they're like, "Man, how am I going to do this?" And a couple of great points from your stories. One, you took the exam, you didn't pass, but you didn't get discouraged. You picked yourself up off the ground, and you studied again, and you tried again. You didn't pass second time, but you kept on going. And to me, that's remarkable, right? Persistence. Um, but you bring up a couple of good points. One, the diagnostic report that you get from NCES after you take the exam is a great tool, right? It shows you, where you did well, where you struggled. There's so many topics on an FE exam. I mean, anywhere, depending on what FE discipline, you can have anywhere from like 12 to 17 different subjects. That's like a big river of information you got to learn, right? So if you can kind
Definitely.
of narrow down, okay, I did well on ethics, I did well on engineering, economics, thermodynamics, if you're taking the civil, that, okay, I don't need to study as much on these areas. I can focus on my time on maybe fluids or geotech again for a civil. So that's a great tool to have. It kind of a measuring stick, I guess. But also, review courses are great because again, there's so much information you need to study. It's nice to have someone telling you, hey, this is the information you should be focusing on. They're kind of, weeding out the weeds for you. But also, as you mentioned, it was 20 years. Here you are talking about mathematics, probability, and statistics. You probably thought, hey, those things are gone. I don't need them anymore. You dusted off the cobwebs and you took it. So congratulations again on your journey. Well fought, well deserved. When you took the FE, was it a paper pencil or was it the current computer based?
It was computer based, so yeah, I don't have the experience on the FE with the pencil and paper, but
Hmm.
I did took the PE first time, and it was still paper and pencil.
Hmm.
So I know what it is, to have all those, big books, carrying all the codes, putting all those tabs on it,
Hmm.
trying to figure out what was the code that had this information or that other
Hmm.
information. So yeah, but it was a CBT already for the FE.
Okay. So let's say you're going to travel back in time. Let's say you haven't gotten your PE yet. All right. And now it's a computer based exam. How would you prepare differently for a computer based versus a paper pencil?
Um, well, I think it has some advantages, because as I told you, going, with all those books, with all those, you know, um, standards, all that, it takes a lot of effort. Now it seems to me, that it's gonna be easier to do the PE because you have all the codes there, and searching, you have
Mhm.
that tool. It can be really, make things easier. But on the other hand, there are also some, I think they added some tricky questions. They had like multiple true
Mhm. Mhm.
or
Mhm.
something like that. So I think that's kind of tricky. So but it all takes like a process of learning, I
Mhm.
think. So like for all these exams, it's like you go there and you have the idea, what you're doing, but like the first time you're going there and you're really, you know trying to figure out with the time, playing with so many different factors,
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
And so it all, you know at a certain point you figure out, and you get more confident with that. And I think it's always a process of adapting,
Hmm.
you know but it is something that you can figure out at some point.
No, I agree. I think there's pluses and minuses to both. You're right with the introduction of the CBT, or at least for the PE Civil, they added the alternative item types. So you could have more than one multiple choice correct answer, drag and drop, fill in the blank, things like that. Also, some people might think it's easier because, hey, I'm not going to spend so much time flipping through all these other books, right? You're going to have the NCS reference handbook, and then you're going to have all your codes and standards that are applicable to your exam. So it minimizes the number of resources that maybe you have to spend time going through. So I agree with you. I think there's pluses and minuses. Um, well, let's say, Pablo, I'm getting ready to take my FE. All right. And I come to you and Pablo and say, hey, I'm kind of interested in learning or hearing about what are some good things I can do to prepare for the FE exam. What would you tell me, Pablo?
Well, I can only talk to according to my own experience.
Hmm.
So coming from where I'm coming, like for me, it was really hard. It was hard, and getting to know all the terms, the vocabulary, even the units.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, no, like getting ready is just it's like getting ready for running a marathon for
Hmm.
me. So you train every day. Every day you do something to get in shape for that exam. So one of the things I think for me make was good was to overcome this English this barrier, language
Hmm.
barrier. You know, Getting to know all the jargon, the engineering
Hmm.
jargon, really good. Then that's probably gonna be different from a person who has graduated, who has studied everything in English, or
Hmm.
everything or all in the US. So that's a different thing. So I'm not familiar with that kinds of challenges, but one thing I can tell to people listening this podcast is that it doesn't get easier with the years. So if
Hmm.
you're just finishing school, just go for it, because everything is fresh. And I met some really good engineers that graduated from schools here in the US, and they haven't taken the FE exam yet. And I'm just telling them, please go do it. Just do it, because it's not gonna be easier with the years. It's gonna become harder. Yeah, I wish when I came to the US and started my career, trying to rebuild my career in this country. I wish I had some kind of
Hmm.
guidance, like a
Hmm.
book or something. And so after having all this experience, that why I dedicate some time, to write a guide. So that's my book. Working as an engineer in the US, I put there everything that I wish I had,
Hmm.
access to somewhere to help me during this journey. So getting in shape for these exams is really hard work, and it is good to always find a good support out there.
No, that's some great advice. You're right. I mean, studying for an exam is like a marathon, whether you're studying for the FE, the PE, the bar exam, whatever it might be. You have to do it, like if we woke up tomorrow, Pablo, and say, hey, we're going to run a marathon, we're probably not finishing, right? And you
Yeah.
got to maybe, start off with running a mile, and then you maybe increase it to 2, and then maybe 5. So you're right. You got to chop away at it every day, practice, practice. So that's some great advice. Also, I agree. If you have the opportunity to take the FE exam your senior year in college or the year after you graduate, do it. Because as Pablo said, those subjects, they aren't, it's not like riding a bike. That mathematics, thermodynamics, all that's going to kind of go into the attic. And you're going to have to spend so much time dusting off those cobwebs, trying to refresh those into your memory. So that's a great advice. Take that FE if you have that opportunity. Take it early on. Um, that's great. So let me ask you this, Pablo. So let's say you graduated college with a degree in engineering. What is the point of obtaining a license?
That's a really good question. I was wondering also when I came to the US, how am I gonna get a first engineering job?
Hmm.
So I tried getting a job, and I only had my credentials to show. I had my credentials evaluation from NCEES, and I tried and I sent resumes. Nobody called. So I guess from my background, having a background like mine, it is very good to pass the FE to show you're being serious, you're taking
Hmm.
seriously. So, and also it gives you an extra credentials to
Hmm.
show down there in an interview. You go there and people ask you, what's your experience? In my case, I had over 16 years of experience working, as a university professor. I had my own consulting company in Nicaragua. I was a professional engineer, licensed engineering in Nicaragua. I put my stamp, on drawings and had that sort of, level down there.
Hmm.
But when I came here, it was like starting again.
Hmm.
So I go for an interview. I say, I have all this experience in Nicaragua, and they say, yeah, but that's Nicaragua. So do you really, know some engineering? They think there are not qualified people over there.
Right, right.
So that's something. So when you go and it's like extra credentials you have, to show in an interview.
Hmm.
So I did the FE. I have my credential evaluation from NCEES. It says it's my degree. It's equivalent to
Hmm.
a bachelor degree from any American university. But also I passed this test. So it's something really awesome about the American system is that uh, it's a test that put everybody on the same level.
Hmm. Hmm.
I was there, on my side. There was a guy from an Ivy League university, but I passed. He has the same struggle. Some maybe, maybe not, but we have both the same credential. So that's awesome, and that's something that really helps you and gives you, confidence also that you
Hmm.
can do it and have something to show in an
Right.
interview. It's really beautiful. It's not probably the same path for everybody.
Hmm.
Here you have had some people in your show
Hmm.
telling their own stories, and everybody has its own path. Its own opportunities, their own way of thinking how to do it. But I think it's really useful in that aspect.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I agree, Pablo. Sometimes it's important to get yourself on the same level playing field, right? You might have 30 years of experience, but you don't have the FE or you don't have the PE, and someone else that has maybe similar experience as you has either one of those. So they seem to be on a higher level. So no, leveling the playing field is definitely important. So after you pass your FE, some people that have been working in engineering for a while, maybe they have enough work experience to where they can go right from their FE to their PE. But what do you tell people that, maybe after they take their PE or their FE, they still have to get those 4 or 5 years of experience before they can sit for the PE? How do they keep that content
Well, that was one of the reasons why I decided to sit for the PE after I passed the FE. Even though I haven't passed it yet, but it was a good experience, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because you take all that mystery out of that. You're some people, they never tried, until they feel they have all the experience, all these things. But many friends told me, you should take advantage and go sit for the PE right now. You have fresh that all that
hmm
the things you studied, um, um, because they have decoupled,
hmm
that you can go and sit for at least in Michigan, in most states, I think they have decoupled. You don't need to wait for the 4 years, to have access to the PE. You can go sit for the PE. If you pass it, then that doesn't mean you're gonna have the license. You need still to have the 4 years of experience,
Right.
but that means that you only need to worry about working,
hmm
not about taking the test like in 4 years or 5 years.
Right.
So that's a good thing. So I went there, and it was I have to tell you that the morning part was pretty similar to the FE. I felt it was, even though it was paper and pencil, as I told you, it was pretty similar to the FE, but it didn't have all those integrals, math, basic math, and all that
Right,
stuff.
right.
But for me, the most difficult part was the depth portion. I took the structural
Hmm.
PE, and the depth portion, it was my big problem, and I got the feedback, from the NCEES, and that's the portion of the exam that I didn't perform as well as
Hmm.
those who passed. So, but now I know what are the things I need to get more used to, standards, and to find all the stuff. So I think, in my case, or in the case of structural, those who are taking structural, it is good to keep that studying current, to do, um, to practice in your everyday work, like going to those codes, getting familiar, know them by heart,
Hmm.
then it's gonna become easier and easier and easier than until, like I did with the FE, I just knew everything by heart, I guess. I did so many, so at some point you get in that level, it's just a matter of practicing, keep doing it, keep trying.
No, I agree. I talked to a lot of people, and the majority of them say, you know what, practice problems, repetition, right? Keep working the practice problems, practice tests, workshop problems, because a lot of those problems are similar to what you might come across on the exam. So, yeah, practice is great. Keep repeating those different types of practice exams and problems. So that's some great advice. Let me ask you this, Pablo. How did you feel when you passed the FE? When you got notification that you passed the FE exam?
Oh boy, that was amazing. The feeling of accomplishment, the feeling that, I felt an engineer again. The first time 20 years ago when I received my degree, my certificate in back in Nicaragua, that was something that I remember every day. But when I received that email telling me that I passed the FE, that was, because that meant a lot to me, to my family. I have access, even though I already had a job, as an
Hmm.
engineer in the US. I was working in the telecom industry,
Uh huh.
designing telecom towers, but they give me access to a different kind of jobs, because, I had access to a whole different kind of job because I passed the FE. So it was really amazing. It felt really well, felt really nice. And I think it's gonna be something, especially in, telling you my story,
Right,
going
right.
to school basically on my own, studying in a different, working in a
Hmm.
different language, as an adult, and then, so that was amazing, an amazing accomplishment. And I think the PE is gonna be probably like the same thing,
Hmm.
but now it's like, I know, I already sit there, I know what to expect,
Right,
so
right.
I know what the things that I need to, work more on those areas. So it's gonna be like that time, when I did that test, the exam, the FE. I sit there that last time, and I was really easy. I felt that, are you kidding me? This is super easy. I did that. So, not to be bragging about, but I think that it's gonna be awesome. Passing test, an exam like this,
Hmm.
having that sense of accomplishment, giving you the opportunity, the chance to have better job opportunities. It's amazing.
Well, yeah, I can only imagine. So that's fantastic. Um, so as we're coming to the end of the podcast, one other thing I wanted to ask you. So when you're preparing for this for an exam, FE, PE, bar exam, MCAT, whatever it might be, we discussed it kind of being a marathon, right? You got to chop away at it, work at it, yeah, a little bit every day. But sometimes the journey is long, the long hours. A lot of people, they're working, they have family, now they're studying either on weekends or weekdays. And maybe you take a couple practice tests and you don't score as high as you thought you would, or you miss questions you thought you would have got right. Frustration starts to set in. So, what do you do to kind of stay focused and then also not cave into just being like, do I really need to do this? How do you keep pushing forward?
Well, I think that we have chosen an amazing profession. Engineering is not easy. Engineering is not easy, but somehow we as engineers we enjoy the challenge,
Hmm.
right? We enjoy doing difficult things because it gives us, the sense of accomplishment.
Hmm.
We are engineering. One of the things that called me about engineering was the curiosity of how we as human race build stuff,
Hmm.
make things happen. So I think this is part of it, you know. So how do you keep your energy? You are human. We are human. We get tired. We got a lot of stuff to do. It's just a matter of following the sign. You need to get rest. Get rest. Take some time off,
Hmm.
and then recharge your batteries. Go back. Yeah, as I said, it's a marathon. You don't go there. You need training, but also you need to have a good sleep night before the exam. There are so many different things that come into play, in order to pass these exams. They're not
Right.
easy. So you need to be aware of that. It may be easier for some people. I know some people. I know an engineer who took the FE. He studied overseas. He came to the US, and he just pay the fees and do the test. He didn't even study, review, or anything. He just sat there, and it was super easy for him. It did it
Wow.
in 2.5 hours. I know this guy. He wasn't bragging, when he was telling the
Holy cow.
story. And then for the PE, he used a review like a couple of weeks before, and sat, and he did it. He said
Wow.
that the real exam is the SE. He did the SE, and he reviewed like a couple of months before,
Oh,
going there.
geez.
So there are those guys out there, there
Right.
exist these people, but in
Right.
my case, most people case, I think we need to take it seriously, and take our time or
Hmm.
effort, study it, and make our effort and get a good review, all these things, and every case is different,
Hmm.
that you cannot evaluate yourself against
Right.
other person. You need to evaluate yourself, your knowledge, your understanding of the subject matter, only with yourself, and that's the beauty of it.
No, you're absolutely right, Paul. Everyone's situation is unique. We're all unique. So, comparing us to, one another doesn't always work, right? You should focus on what works for you. And this is your journey, and how you get there is up to you. As we're running out of time today, Pablo, I just want to thank you for coming on, sharing your story, talking about your journey. It's fascinating. I'd love to have you back. We can talk about something else, but I'd love to have you back. But again, for everyone out there, have a great day. Enjoy the 4th of July holiday coming up. Pablo, thank you so much for coming out. But before we call it a day, Pablo, any words of wisdom you want to share with the audience?
Well, I want to tell everybody who has a foreign degree in engineering that you can make it too. You can make it too. Take your time, do your research, look for my book, Working as an Engineer in the US.
Yeah, that sounds like a
I have,
fascinating read.
yeah, it's a easy read, but it's a good help for you. I wish I had this book when I came 2 years ago to the US. That's what I made it. So there's a lot of good tips there, like many amazing things that I put there, all my effort, all my time to try to make it easier for you out there, so you can do it too.
Thank you, Pablo. Before we call it a day, though, hold up that book so everyone can get a good look at it. There you go. Working as an engineer in the USA sounds like a great read, but it's probably tells a great story and is very helpful. So, Pablo, thank you for coming out today. Everyone else, have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you for having us.